Hello and welcome everybody here to another Dev Diary. It is number 13 of Crusader Kings III's Dev Diaries, and we're going to learn about the learning lifestyle today. The learning lifestyle, to me in Crusader Kings II, always one of the more boring ones, I would call it at the very least, because you had Scholarship, which has one questline, and after that, that is the end. And then you had, of course, Theology, which would occasionally give you a bunch of piety, which is why everyone actually went for that. Let's be real, nobody else actually cared for it. But this one, much more interesting and much more exciting in the way that it is, constructed. But I will say it kind of bums me out, because this is a good dev diary, no doubt about it, Woffer von Hunden. And no, Woffer von Hunden, don't get me wrong here, but of course it is a bit... it's just so sad that there are some things in this dev diary, and you're going to see this very soon, where we would have to know the religious mechanics to truly know what it does. So, with that being said, let's just jump straight into it in this dev diary that is both hot and cold, both exciting and boring. So you get three choices. The medicine focus gives you, a tiny bit of learning as well as a small health boost. Then you have the scholarship focus, gives you a big bunch of learning, and that is it. And then the theology focus is, of course, a bit of learning and a decent amount of piety. One per month is not too bad, I would argue, at the very least. Now, that being said, these are the lifestyle traits. You have well of body, I think it's called a well of being, I can't remember, where you don't become a doctor at the end of the medicine tree, but you just know about your body, which is a good idea, You're not a court physician yourself, but you're better at determining when you're well and when you aren't well. Then you have theologian, of course, and the very last one is scholarship. Now, that being said, let's just jump into the theologian tree right away. We start with a very boring faithful clergy opinion plus 10. It is, of course, a good impact, but let's be real, that's a boring perk. It gets more interesting down here, not directly, but with the implications. So, church and state, this one right here, realm priest opinion plus 50. That's really good. It's really good, don't get me wrong. If you're a king of France and your archbishop says, you know what, I like you, bro, you're gonna get all the taxes, that's a huge boost to your income every single month. But the question is, and they address that actually here directly, the question is, what happens to religions that do not have realm priests? For example, if you're the caliph of the Shia faith, who's the realm priest? Who sits there and is like, I'm not gonna give you your taxes, bro? Of course, makes no sense. In an unorganized religion, maybe you have a realm priest, maybe you don't have a realm priest. But what is important here is that they have accounted, for that situation. So church and state changes if you are of a religion that does not have a realm priest. In this case, monthly piety from buildings plus 100%. And I gotta be real with you, neither of these options really excites me. Of course, it's opinion, it's more money, it's numbers, right? It's statistics, it's good. When you take this perk, you say, yes, I've done something. It's like saving up for your pension, right? You say, yes, this is agreeable, I have to do this, but it's not exciting. The exciting part about this, at the end of the day, to me, is that we now have more insight and more confirmed insight on the fact just how moddable these trees will be. You can mod in an entirely new religion, use the old perk trees, and just change the benefits of the perk trees, and have that religion be entirely unique. It is absolutely exciting to me, just not for that modding, but also for different modding. And, I don't want to give anyone ideas here, but for example, in Elder Scrolls, I could see this serve very, very well in certain cases. But what I could also see, and definitely don't worry about this, but what about either a space game like Crisis of the Confederation, which already is a mod, or something like a modern ideology game where different ideologies get different bonuses. That's all I'm saying. There is a lot of stuff in here that can be done with the differences in religion. I wonder whether these changes could also happen if you are of a different culture, or if it has to be bound to religion. But either way, I'm very excited to see this in action. That is just wonderful. Now with that, let's just move on. Clerical justifications. Religious relations efficiency plus 20%. Decent. Doesn't excite anyone, but everybody knows it's good. A Radiant, level of devotion impact plus 100%. That is pretty good. That is pretty good. That should be something that gets you excited, because level of devotion is essentially like splendor. So splendor is something that you gain if you gain prestige, but the prestige is something that you can spend. We already have this mechanic in Crusader Kings II, except in Crusader Kings II, your prestige is also the splendor, because the splendor is something that you can invest in the dynasty, for example. Now, we have the same splitting here in the case of piety and devotion. Piety is whatever you amass, and you just have it as a currency that you can pay. If you are a very pious person, then you have more piety, you can pay more, for example, be that, to get some holy orders to serve you, be it to maybe build some holdings if you're a certain government type, that sort of stuff. But if you spend the piety, that does not mean that you spent the devotion. The devotion experience essentially is what piety is, or what prestige does already in Crusader Kings II. I don't think piety does it actually, where people get a better opinion of you. As with other similar values, it is increased by gaining piety, but your devotion experience does not fall when you spend piety, so it's an ever-growing measure of your life's accomplishments. Well, ever-growing as long as you do nothing to upset the church, important members of the clergy, or your gods. At least while anyone's watching. So essentially, we now have an opinion boost, you know, maybe it's a boost, maybe it is even a negative if you are very impious, but piety is no longer a mistress student here in Italy. Andrea, thank you, I will get to this later. Now, that being said, I will say that I think this is pretty cool. The level of devotion, of course we knew it is split, but making any impact that you have in piety be bigger on devotion is also very important to build a character that can skyrocket after a while, right? So this is quite nice. The split of devotion and piety is the most important part. Very exciting. I like it. Zealous proselytizer. Convert faith in county progress speed plus 25%. And then religious icon. Convert faith in county. The fervor modifier never goes below 0. Now, I may have forgotten something from an older dev diary. If you know this, if you remember this, tell me about the fervor modifier, please, because I cannot remember it. I will pin your comment, you know, the usual stuff. Just tell me about it. I can't recall just what that exactly was. If we use it, I assume that it's something like, you know, how religious are the people of the province? How much are they towards your religion? But I'm not entirely sure. Both of these, of course, go together. I will say, by the way, I will pay the developer that actually starts listing this stuff in proper, you know, in order. So, for example, faithful does not actually go into church and state. It goes into clerical justifications and zealous proselytizer. But that aside, apostate, you know, we already had that. Oh, we did not have apostate yet. But, and here comes the thing that kind of upsets me about this dev diary. Not really, but you know, it's come on now. It's really good that we have definitely told you everything about how religions and fervor and all those things work in CK3, otherwise I'd be telling you guys way too much right now. I assume, yeah, fervor is indeed something we don't know anything about. Especially with perks such as this prophet. Are you kidding me? Now that I finally reached the end of the line here, there's some things that I can't say as much about as I want to, apparently. I think he had the icon here, and then had to delete it. God damn it. Back to the perk tree, okay. Defender of the Faith. This one is an interesting one because it also gives you different bonuses if you are of different religions. For example, this is Catholicism. I assume tyranny gain minus 25%, meaning whatever you do, people think it is the right thing because you are the Defender of the Faith, or one of them anyway. You are a very pious person, so if you revoke a title, for example, if you plot against someone, then it must be the right thing to do. And then if this changes, for example, diplomacy per level of devotion plus 1 and monthly piety plus 20%. Honestly, a huge gain here, in my opinion, for the Muslims, but let's be real, a tyranny gain minus 25% is also huge if you play a particularly cruel ruler, for example. Then down here we have, at the very end, you get the theologian trait, which will help provide all the learning and piety you could ever wish for, as befits someone who is in such close communion with the divine. Pretty standard, I would argue. Let's move on to whole of body. So, the whole of body impacts your court physician quite immediately. You have at the very first perk, you have anatomical studies. Court physicians cost less to hire, and court physician treatments have better outcomes, which is quite a good start, and it continues onwards with this. Honestly, this tree is just fairly strong all around. Wash your hands. Very odd name, but reduced chance of contracting illnesses and reduced chance for courtiers to contract illnesses. So you essentially believe something that many people didn't back in the day, and it keeps you a bit cleaner. Then Iron Constitution, Disease Resistance Fertility plus 30%, and Disease Resistance Health massive boost. If you take this and get sick, you will be easier to just live or it will be easier for you to just live a normal life despite the sickness and survive it. Now, it doesn't actually, and this is what it says down here, it doesn't actually impact your rate of getting sick, but it impacts your rate of your body being able to adapt and fight the poison, or, you know, not the poison, the sickness that has caught you. So, pretty decent. It's just, you know, essentially a modifier, but it is a modifier that actually counts, that has a huge impact on how long your character will live. Now, this will get better, healthy, you know, if you want to improve your survivability even when you're healthy, just be healthy. Well, I mean, you know, if you're depressed, by the way, just be happy, guys. Don't be depressed. Now, healthy gives you a significant health boost, quite decent as well, but, you know, that's just the entire tree. And then down here we have stress gain minus 25% carefree. It is so good, because then you can start just playing a character however you want. Essentially an arbitrary character, right? And you can do it as soon as you pick carefree, which is already, you know, up to be the second part of the tree here, or the second perk of the tree if you want it very early on. But minus 25% stress gain, I would argue, all in all, is a very good idea, especially because it means that you won't have any midlife crises. Mental resilience, time between mental breaks plus 3 years. What exactly that means we don't know yet, but You know, I assume that mental breaks are the things that you get if you stress out, and if you stressed out and you get these events, that you get, you know, for example, either depression, or you could get becoming a lunatic, that sort of stuff. I think that is what could happen here. Maybe even a permanent physical illness. Those things happen due to stress as well. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So that would be quite interesting, but I like the idea of essentially having a character that just, you know, he's cool. He just hangs out. He's like, yeah, I wash my hands, you know, I make a decision, and then one day after I make the opposite decision. What's the matter? Works out. I like the idea. I like the way the perk tree works, especially because all the passives here that we have in this perk tree are actually interesting passives. They aren't just 10% more Texas, bro. Alright, what do we have here? Restrained. You can take the embrace celibacy and abandon celibacy decisions. With this one, I'm not certain, because I'm not sure. Of course, you know, they say it here themselves. Once your children are starting to amass, you might want to start limiting the pool of competing claims in the inevitable inheritance dispute. And if a few of your strong genius heirs accidentally get thrown on the roof, you can get started on some new ones again. I'm not sure whether this should be here, because it should be up to a very religious person, I feel. And of course, this is the learning tree, but this is not a religiously minded tree. Right? So this is a focus in the learning discipline, but this is not a very religiously minded tree, and I feel like hiding celibacy for someone that, you know, is a theologian behind the well-being tree is a bit strange. I do see the connection. I get it, especially from a gameplay balancing point of view, but I will tell you, I think it's a very strange choice to have this there. And this one is just amazing. I actually like this one. I know, you know, of course, it's difficult to say, hey, I feel I'm dying. Is that really a thing? And it probably is, but whether it is to a degree that you know 1 year away that you will die in a year, probably not. But know thyself. When death of natural causes is 1 year away, you will receive a warning. I actually like this tree a lot. There are mods out there, and I know a lot of people use the mods that let you see your health, and I've never used it, because I always felt, hey, it's a bit gamey. But I like the idea of having a one-time reminder, hey, you know what? My death is coming. And at that point, you just want to go, you know what? I want to live forever, but let's get to the forever living a bit later. If you finish the perk tree here, you get the whole of body, which gives you fertility, health, and reduces stress gain. Pretty good. I like this tree as a survivability tree, essentially. I like it. I, again, you know, have one point of criticism right there. Where is it? There it is. But, you know, that aside, I actually like the tree quite a bit. Give me a moment. Alright, let's continue with Scholar. Now, I had to make a little cut there, but don't worry about it. Scholarly Circles, let's start with that. So, essentially, Scholarly Circles gives you learning per level of devotion +2. So, the more pious you are, the more devotion you get. The more devotion you have, the more learning you have. It's a wonderful self-reinforcing cycle. I love it. You love it. I think everybody loves it. Down here, then, we have Learn on the Job. 20% of counselors' primary skills added to your own. Isn't that exciting? Holy crap. You can build an actual genius character with this stuff without being a genius. I like it. Pedagogy, your wards can get additional skills and can become your friends. Now, I have to rehash my position here, where essentially these people are creating these dev diaries without just chronologically walking us through the perks, but don't worry about it. This is a huge entry point. I'll be honest with you. I really love what they have done there. Pedagogy, your wards can get additional skills and become your friends. I mean, seriously. You pick this day one, immediately your children become better people. It's amazing. This is actually really, really good because it has such a big immediate impact on your long-term game. Down here we have plant cultivation. Increase development in county efficiency +20%. Very, very good. I like that a lot. You can build tall if you become a smart person. Obviously, you know, that is how it goes. That is how it should go as well. You can solve problems better, especially when it comes to the hands-on economics of your county. And you can do that by being a smart lad, or less for that matter. And then over here, scientific, cultural fascination progress +100%. I assume, see, they don't tell us what it means, right? But I assume that it could mean one of two things. It could either mean that a cultural province will become more interested, like a province that has a different culture of you becomes more interested in your culture. Or, and I think this is more likely, it means that a child that you have as your ward becomes more interested in your culture quicker. So essentially, you know, if you have a vassal that, let's say, is Irish and you're English, then you take that child on, and you tell the child, it's called, you know, whatever. I can't finish that joke, but you know what I mean, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. It would make it more interesting to essentially have the children of your non-culture vassals or different culture vassals as your wards, and I think this could, be this one. Then again, it says scientific, so maybe, and this is just me guessing, you know what, here's number 3, here's the hidden number 3, since it says scientific, I feel as though it might mean that you could become Roman with this, but you know what, I'm not going to dive into this because it's probably not true. Now that being said, open-minded, ignore negative culture opinion, yes, pretty good to have a stable realm that is multicultural. Very, very good actually. Apostate, different faith opinion plus 10 and faith conversion cost minus 75%. So essentially people will like you and then, you know, it will cost less to convert them. Oh no, actually, sorry, my bad. It helps you, right here, it says right here. I don't know what just happened there. It helps you to convert for a lesser cost to a different religion. There you go. If you want to, you know, convert all the way through many different religions, this is definitely the way to go. Sanctioned loopholes, you can use the buy claim interaction. It's the second time where I say this, I know, but I'm not sure that this is the best way to have it here, locked away behind a tree, primarily because, you know, people of all walks of life back in the Middle Ages would buy claims, would make their court chaplain into a pure tool that would go out and make it so that, you know, everyone would believe that you have a God-given right to rule there, that there's a, you know, maybe a steward would do it instead, where the steward says, hey, I have a long-ranging family history here, right, and it clearly tells a story of this belonging to this family. I'm not sure whether this is a good idea. I get it because you want to balance this perk tree to be attractive, to be good, but not sure whether it should actually be hidden behind this this tree. And then the last tree that we can see right here is Scholar, which grants a solid boost to learning, small boosts to hostile and personal scheme power, as well as a modifier to development growth in your counties. A pretty good choice if you want to build tall despite not being stewardship. Now that being said, they do move on. And they move on here beyond the dev diary to the modding of it. The modding of it, for example, is, you know, immortality. That is something that is already defined in-game, because it essentially just gives you a couple of modifiers that makes it so that you can't die due to old age. But it is not actually active. They're just saying in this, hey, you, dear modder, there already is an immortal parameter that we have, you know, kind of already registered with the game. And if you want to make a mod where people can be immortal, then there you go. I'm excited for that, because it means that they know, you know, there is an audience for this, there is an audience for all the supernatural stuff, there is an audience for all the stuff that is absolutely out of this world, I mean, quite literally. And I like that they've already implemented it, but over here we have a bit of a meme. Jesus Christ, this face. This is the face. Both of these faces give me nightmare. He looks like a dwarf from Lord of the Rings. She just looks like... Actually, she does look like an even elf. You think that, like an evil elf. You think this is Galadriel and Gimli. Either way, I want to say thank you to all of you for watching. I want your opinion on what is going on in this dev diary and whether it interests you personally to go down the learning direction, or whether you think it is not that good a choice, because there are, of course, other perk trees that are a bit more interesting. And also, you know what? I actually want to check. I didn't see it yet. Next week is the diplomacy lifestyle. Right, there you go. Now we know it. And that will be practically it. Did we miss anything else? Intrigue we did. Did we do martial? I don't think we did. Now that being said, still, next week's diplomacy. I will see you then. And I want to thank the members of the channel before I lose my voice here and my sense. I want to thank the Barons, Aaron, Stefan, the Richest, T, Snowolf, Emma Mello, and Thomas, and then of course the Counts, Kermalik 2, Shifty, and Ixum the Naughty, and last but not least, the wonderful Dukes, Suspicious Duck, Benedict, Nathan, Knight of Squires, Kenneth, Lexo, Roboman, My Dad Left Me at Arby's, and the absolute legends, Eric and Aiden. Thank you so much for supporting the channel directly and for making all of these videos possible. If you have a distinct opinion on this dev diary, make sure to leave a comment, and later, alligator.